Let's see, we'll go ahead and do 7.5. Consideration of A, waiving the formal bidding process pursuant to Lake County Code Section 38.2 as it is not in the public interest due to the unique nature of goods or services. B, approval of agreement with American Financial Credit Services Incorporated for collection of unsecured delinquent property tax, authorizing the treasurer tax collector to sign. And we have Treasurer Tax Collector Patrick Sullivan here. Go ahead.
Good morning, Board. Thank you for the opportunity to present this item today. So this is a proposed agreement for the collection of unsecured property tax debt. At this point, there's many other counties that are using this type of service. It is considered to be a best practice. So we have a delinquency rate of about 15% on unsecured property tax. So this is an opportunity to try to grab some of that revenue, make sure that we're addressing businesses that are not paying their bills, getting everyone on an equal footing. I'm happy to explain anything about the contract or how the process would work. This is the first time the county would be using this type of service. It's similar to what we already use in our office for court-ordered debt. For probation and other criminal cases, we work the case first ourselves in our office. After certain benchmarks are met, if we're unsuccessful in collections, then it will go to outside collections. The difference this time is that we do have a backlog. Unsecured debt has not been a priority for the office for a while. And given our current staffing situation, especially we have recent developments where 2 staff members are going to be out on leave, that's going to put us effectively at a 30% vacancy next month. So I don't believe we have any ability in-house to work this backlog. I think we have the ability to work it going forward, but I don't think we have the ability to go into the past. So our plan is to provide the unsecured list to this vendor who will then pursue collections in the same manner they have in other counties. So any questions, I'm happy to respond.
Supervisor Owen?
Yeah, I read through it. I could not find what percentage we're paying them.
So the county is not actually paying a fee on this. It's structured like a lot of other outside collections programs. There's a fee that's being added on, but that would be to the delinquent taxpayer. So
we don't lose any income.
We don't lose any income. The county would still be receiving the full amount, but if someone goes delinquent, that's where the vendor is essentially making their money, is that there's a 25% fee added onto it that the vendor is then going to collect along with what's owed to us.
Okay, I didn't find that. Thank you.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Yes, just a quick question, sorry. What is potentially the unsecured amount total?
So the current delinquent unsecured roll, what we have previously uncollected, is about 6.8 million. What I would really hedge on with that, though, is there's been no discharges from that list. There are businesses in there that have long closed. There are businesses where there's other creditors that would be in front of us. So the odds of us recovering any of those assets or money are low. So the further back in time we go, the less likely it is to collect these. So we're going to have to work with the vendor and come up with some sort of plan about how we're going to prioritize and what we're going to look at. And at some point, I expect a lot of that debt to be uncollectible. There's about $300,000 a year that goes uncollected and unsecured right now. So I think the other hope is that if we're more timely about pursuing it, we'll be more likely to recover.
So we just had a somewhat similar conversation with the auditor controller about some findings where fire districts, cities, special districts, and others need to kind of repay a clawback of sorts where money was provided but money needs to be taken back. Is there a plan once we send it out into the collections? Let's just say one of our businesses gets hit and they get hit hard with tens of thousands of dollars or something. Is there a possible plan on how to not make that really, really hurt and allow for a flexible way to resolve this issue, since we haven't really been doing our part on an annual basis, but suddenly we might be asking for 5 years of payback of things that maybe they, who knows, were unknowns to them that they was owed, and just kept doing business as if last year this was the way it was, so this year this is how I'm budgeting. Is there going to be some flexibility once it's in the hands of AFCS, or is it just strong collections and we're done, and whatever hurts, hurts.
We actually have more flexibility with this program than we have in other areas. A lot of times with court-ordered debt, for instance, once we take certain steps for a bank levy to seize accounts or garnish wages, we can't just dial it back easily. With this vendor, we do have quite a bit of discretion, and we can indicate how far we want to go, whether we want to place liens on property, whether we want to go after a bank account. One of the things that I do want to do is I want to look at some of the higher value cases and not necessarily just immediately refer them out, so that we get a closer look at those. But I would say most of these folks, they should have been receiving notices every year. They should be aware of what's out there. There would be an opportunity for a payment plan. We have a great deal of discretion with unsecured. That was the problem with secured property tax, was that we have no or very limited discretion in what we can do. It's very much set by state law. In this area, we have significant discretion.
And I appreciate that, and I guess what I would say is please utilize that discretion. Times are hard for many of us, and if we don't have to hit somebody as hard, if it's possible to extend that. If possible, looking for consensus to please utilize that discretion.
I would say I don't agree with that, because once you engage with a collector, you might get a response, but you're paying them to do that work to get them back into compliance and pay their bills. So, I mean, these people have been receiving bills for years and years and years and just not paying them. We're engaging this firm to do this work. We shouldn't have them do the work and then not allow them to get paid for it.
They're not getting paid. They're adding fees,
That's how they get paid, though.
but we're not paying them.
They're getting paid to do that work. They should be able to collect the fees.
Vice Chair, you were next.
How many years back does that 6 million go?
So there are debts in here that go back to the beginning of the megabyte system, which would be around 2002 or 2003. So because there's never been any kind of discharge here, I mean, it's my firm belief that a majority of this debt is uncollectible. But because it has not been worked before, we really don't know what is collectible out there. Generally, anything less than 10 years old is what's considered viable, because you can still place liens in a normal, effective way. Anything over 10 is very difficult, expensive, and time-consuming to pursue. So, that's something that's going to be up to us and the collections agency to evaluate. But at this time, we would anticipate authorizing payment plans. So our goal would be for everyone to get on a payment plan. That's our hope, or to pay up front.
Thank you.
Supervisor Owen?
Yeah, I believe that you had mentioned that in some cases they have not received notices in the past for monies due. I believe that you had made that statement, so I am kind of the mind of being flexible as well with them. And I know that in your contracts you did mention that the company will be flexible and set up payment plans. And the big thing I can see is times have been hard over the last few years, especially with COVID, and some grace may be needed to keep some of these businesses in business under those circumstances, that for what they have went through over the last decade, the hard times, the economy. So I would think keeping these businesses in operational would be our first priority if possible.
Go ahead.
If I could respond to part of that, yes, we can be flexible to, in a sense, with payment plans, but there is also a downside, especially for more recent debts. There's interest and penalties that accumulate the longer someone stretches it out. So while we're very intentionally not coming after people hard on this, we would have the ability to immediately seize equipment, seize bank accounts. We're really trying our best to avoid doing anything like that and do payment plans. But I do just want to highlight that there is a danger in people stretching these payments out too long. It's going to increase what they owe in the end. So I think we want people to, a dream, they'd pay it off immediately, save themselves a ton of money. If they can't, we want to be flexible, but also the longer they stretch it out, the more penalties accumulate. So it's kind of a balance.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'm going to open it up to the public if there's anyone that would like to comment on this agenda item. All right, I'll bring it back to the board. If there's any further discussion.
I mean, I've worked with collection agencies before, and people just don't pay their bill. They keep getting the bill, they get the bill, they get the bill, they don't pay it. You engage it with a collector, they're more aggressive, and then suddenly they want to pay their bill. So we need to make sure that that collector is able to get the fees so that their time is covered. Otherwise, why are we bringing them on?
I am not looking for flexibility to decrease anything, just flexibility for, like we've been discussing, potential payment plans, which that's their choice if they get added interest or not. But they should be paid. If something is due, something is due. It should be paid. It shouldn't be wiped off. But we also didn't do our part for a very long time to follow up. And so I think that flexibility in hard times is okay, as long as we're not cutting the bill.
Go ahead, Ben.
I would just add that while we are trying to offer flexibility, really none of those options are coming off the table. We have discretion to a point, but at some point, if someone's not working with us,
Of course.
we still have to go after the whatever assets and funding we can. So we can give people quite a bit of leeway in terms of giving time to get back to us, time to set up an arrangement. But at some point, we also aren't allowed to ignore the fact that we can recover from someone if they aren't cooperating.
Thank you for explaining that. To me, that gives me the impression that you have an opportunity to give some leeway. So for me, that I'm fine with as is. So, but all good discussion, and so I'm just looking for action from here.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to waive the formal bidding process pursuant to Lake County Code Section 38.2, as it is not in the public interest due to the unique nature of goods or services. Can I do both, or should that be separate?
Oh, we have to do one, right?
It can be done separately.
Okay.
Okay.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And B, I'll move to approve the agreement with American Financial Credit Services Incorporated for collection of unsecured delinquent property tax, authorizing the treasurer tax collector to sign.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.